We only know a few games for Boston College in 2025, but man, September is looking pretty sweet.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone. This is Locked On Boston College, your team every day. I'm your host, AJ Black. I'm the editor of Eagle Insider. Thank you for joining us. We are the only daily Boston College podcast out there. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is here, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. New customers can bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get yourself started. So, busy weekend in sports. We're going to talk the basketball game. We have to. We have to talk about hockey, who swept BU in a top 10 Battle of ComAv. And we get some football news to kick things off. So let's jump into the football news. The ACC is doing a nice slow roll of their schedule for 2025. Earlier this week, we found out the week one opponents for all 16 ACC teams, including I think Notre Dame knew theirs too. But BC's playing Fordham. This is not a surprise. If you've checked out fbschedules.com, they've had that up for about a year. So we knew that August 30th will be the first game of the season at Alumni Stadium against Fordham. I'm going to probably go on record to say that that's probably going to be a 12 o'clock start. Probably be on ACC Network or ACC Network X, but we don't know that yet. We just know it's on August 30th. But 2 days later, they released the first ACC game for each team. Again, it's like they're just giving you a taste of what the schedule is going to be like. And because of that, we found out two games because we have one first game, and then we are the first team of another team. So we got two games, and they both fall in the same month. So BC is going to start the season off in the ACC on September 13th. That's a Saturday at Stanford. And then they're going to host Cal on September 27th at Alumni Stadium. So now you know two ACC games. You know 4 games to start the season off. You start the season off with Fordham in August. Then the next week, you travel to East Lansing for Michigan State. You have Stanford on the 13th, which I'm going to go ahead and guess. I don't know. Actually, I don't want to guess, but it's going to be a weird time. I'm going to guess it's going to be a weird time. I don't know how. I didn't follow Stanford and Cal's ACC scheduling, but I just, as someone who has to cover this, Stanford was really bad last year, and I'll get into that in a little bit. But I hope this is not a 10 o'clock game because I'll die. Please don't make it a 10 o'clock game. And so that game. So you have Stanford. Then there's the 20th is an open week. We don't know it. They have it marked as ACC on the BC schedule, but I think that might be just the Stanford thing. So ignore that. I don't think they have anything in there for the 20th yet. And then Cal. So now you know the month of September. You know, we have 8 months till the start of the season. I'm going to talk about football teams for the next 8 months. Recruiting, all sorts of fun stuff. But I look at the schedule right now, not knowing what the 20th is. And I say to myself, this is looking pretty solid way to start the season off. And in terms of like easing your way in, not getting the murderer's row. That could happen later because remember, you still have Clemson, Notre Dame, and SMU coming to Alumni Stadium. Notre Dame, I believe, is at November 1st. We know that already. Don't know where the other two are going to fall, but we'll find that out on Monday. Now, Stanford, they were 3-9 last year. Not good. Their wins are kind of freaky, though, because it's Stanford and everything is weird there. You know, they got the weird tree. Their whole history is weird. Their two conference wins were against Syracuse, who went 9-3, 10-3 with the bowl, and Louisville, who was also really good. I mean, this team also lost to Wake Forest. They lost to Cal, San Jose State, NC State. They got absolutely waxed by, who wasn't even a good team. They were bad last year, and I'm not sure if they're going to be better this year. I don't know enough about Stanford. They were just abysmal. They were 3-9 last year. So to get them early, especially with your offensive line starting you're going to have a new offensive line going. Nice way to start your season off. I like that. Cal, you get them late. Actually, I should jump back and say Michigan State is before Stanford. You get them early. That's got to be probably your toughest September game. It took a heroic pass to Louis Bond to win last week by the quarterback we do not name, and then an interception in the end zone by Max Tucker. I think with a better team, Michigan State should be beatable, but Michigan State again, they're going crazy in the transfer portal. They're doing a lot of things to try to make their team better, and it's on the road. It's a road game early in the season. That could be tough. But you know what? I still think a good BC team could still go in there and win that. I'm not as confident as I am against Stanford, but you get those two. You get two road games right off the bat. Then later, you go to Cal. You host Cal. Cal, I believe Jalen Ott is gone, their star running back. Fernando Mendoza, their star quarterback, transferred to Indiana, so he's gone. They, however, brought in a legit 4-star recruit, Jaron Kawhi Sagabotelli, who was a 4-star that originally committed to Oregon, signed with Oregon, and then entered the transfer portal without even playing a game, and then ended up at Cal. Maybe he's the starter. Who knows? But they're going to have a new look on their team, obviously, without their starting running back and a new quarterback. They weren't all that great last year either. They were a tough out. I would definitely say that, but they weren't a really good team. And so you look at the schedule right now, in your month of September, you could, if you're playing well, if everything is lined up the way that you're hoping it to be, you could have a very strong start to your season. But again, BC's going to have question marks too. Now, the rest of the season is going to be some big questions are going to pop up is how does the Notre Dame, Clemson, SMU games get spread out? That'll be important to see. Where is the bye week going to be? I hope it's not the 20th. I hope they're not just putting it there because it's between two West Coast teams, but it could. Hopefully that's pushed back a little bit. Hopefully, I haven't looked at the schedule, but maybe there's 2 bye weeks like they had this year, and that would be nice. And what's going on with the UConn game? You only have 2 out of conference games early. And I gotta say, I'm not a big fan of getting if we're gonna play an FCS game, getting it early, I guess is okay, but like I would much rather have them middle of the season, like so that week 3, week 4, so that you can use them as almost like a built-in bye week. Having them early, I don't know, not a big fan there. Also, while we're talking, sorry, I have a cold, guys. While we're talking about the summer and getting ready for the games, the new roster came out. We don't know the numbers of players yet of the new guys, but there's all the new roster guys are on there. So if you have not been catching up, they're there. And if you have not heard about any of these guys, go back through my archives. They're all tagged. You can find them. You can find out about all of those players. But there's 3 names of players that I think you might be surprised are gone that did not enter the transfer portal. Gilbert Tongrangu, a defensive tackle / defensive edge, has medically retired. He was one of our talks about a potential replacement for Donovan Azaraku. He's done. He's not playing again. He had a lot of injuries. Every time I saw him on campus, he had something going on, and maybe it's just not worth it. Maybe you get your degree, you move on to something else. And then the punters, Sam Candotti and Ivan Zavenko are both gone. So there you go. The punter room will now be Andy Quinn and Seamus Florio and Sam Stone. So you have 3 basically new guys. Hopefully that will ease the bloodlust of all of you guys that are hoping for, a huge change there. Instead of getting rid of the coaches, you got rid of, you flushed and nuked the punter room so that you have some different punters there. Now, in our second segment, basketball, what a bad game. One of the worst I've seen under Earl Grant. We'll talk about that. Well, hockey, they keep Chestnut Hill bumping. We'll talk all about that in just a moment. This is a message from sponsor Intuit TurboTax. Taxes was waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back, and then waiting, wondering, and worrying some more. Now, Taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return, while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert will find you every deduction possible and file every form, every investment, everything you need with 100% accuracy. All you can get the most of your money back, guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. Now, this is taxes. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live full service. Real-time updates only available on iOS mobile app. See guaranteed details at TurboTax.com/guarantee. This is Locked On Boston College. I'm your host, AJ Black. Thank you all who have made us your first listen every day. If you are listening to us in the gym, at work, in your car, I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for making us your number one go-to Boston College podcast. When you're done with this episode, check out Locked On ACC with Alex Dono and Kenton Gibbs. That's on YouTube or wherever you can get your podcast. Now, it was a busy weekend on campus and in the world of BC sports. BC women's basketball, they lost to Wake Forest. I think it was on the road by 10. Then there was BC basketball, men's basketball, who looked like they were going to actually turn the corner and finally beat, I think it was the first time in like 13 or 14 tries. Like they're 1-14 against UNC in Chapel Hill. And BC looked, I mean, they were battling. UNC's defense was flaming hot garbage. And their head coach, Hubert Davis, he's probably on a hotter seat than Earl Grant is at this point, the way that they look. But UNC, they also had the firepower. They were able to hold on with this one. But BC had the lead. This is the thing. Like as much as UNC kept coming back, BC kept hitting shots. I got a shout out. You know, I do this every show. I'm staying with it. I'm gonna be an honorable man here and do it. Say something nice about BC basketball. Dion Brown. Dion Brown looked like the Dion Brown that we thought we were getting. This was the bill of sales that we were expecting. He had 20 points. He was shooting well. I think he was pretty good from 3-point range. Also, Josh Beadle made some big shots. He had that big shot at the end of the game. He looked good, but it all did not matter because at the end of the game, Earl Grant took the ball out of the players' hands and screwed everything up. This game, with 18 seconds left, BC had the lead by 4 points and still managed to lose this game. And I'm going to pull it up so you can see the atrocity that was the end of this game, because I can't even, if you'd missed this, it doesn't do it justice. Start at the bottom. So Josh Beadle hits a big shot to put them up by 4. BC fouls with 18 seconds left. Seth Trimble hits a bunch of free throw shots. North Carolina calls timeout. BC then can't get the ball in bounds. They put in Chaz Kelly. He cannot get the ball in bounds. They give it back to North Carolina after a 5-second violation. North Carolina calls timeout. Trimble hits another one. They call another timeout. They have where's the other? Oh, did not pop up. I believe there was at least 2 or 3 of these. I don't know why it's not showing up on here. But the main thing is BC just could not get the ball in. Yeah, there it is. Chaz Kelly turnover at the end. So at the end of the game, BC has the ball. They're trying to get the ball in, and they get the ball across court. And Beadle has the ball in his hands. And with 4 seconds left, Earl Grant, who never calls timeout, calls timeout. I don't know why. He just basically shot the play dead, because then they got the ball back and they struggled to get the ball in. That ends the half. But you had multiple turnovers where you could not inbound the ball. You had a inexplicable timeout. Then you, of course, lose in overtime to UNC. This was the most inexplicably bad coaching loss I've seen out of Earl Grant. And there's been a lot of bad losses, and you can yell and scream and yell about whatever you want about him. This was the worst. I don't know what he was doing. You had Dan Woken of Yahoo on Twitter saying, I don't know. He's saying, as a national expert, what was Earl Grant thinking? This is bad. Like, this could have been a nice win. Like, I don't know if it makes any difference in terms of his job security or whatever. I mean, like a win, but this just like feels like it seals the like it's like a nail in the coffin. Like when you lose and you can't, you were up 4 points with 18 seconds left. You should have just been shooting free throws and calling it a game, and you blew it. I I don't know how to defend Earl Grant on this. Maybe some of you are bigger fans of him. This is not on NIL. This is not on the transfer portal. This is just poor coaching, not understanding what to do in big game situations. That's on him, man. I don't know how you get around that. That's what we saw there. I don't want to talk more about basketball because they're miserable. That was their sixth straight ACC loss. They get to play Florida State, who's figured things out. So good luck. That's on February 1st. So we at least get a couple days off of talking about that. But let's talk about hockey because, man, hockey gets me going because, man, this weekend they looked fantastic. They go to Guinness Arena on Friday, excuse me. And it's a 1-8. This is the Battle of Comm Ave. This has always been one of the best rivalries in Boston College, regardless of sports. This is one of the big ones, and it gets the fan base really going. And so on Friday, they go to Guinness, and after going behind 2-1, they let up a couple goals in that first period. They go on to outscore BU 5-0 from there on out and win 6-2. Now, two of those goals were empty netters, but Ryan Leonard had a hat trick, which is incredible. I mean, he's a Hobie Baker finalist or it's a semifinalist right now. He's up there. Ryan Leonard's going to be one of those. And then, of course, as we're going to talk about in a second, you also have got Jacob Fowler playing out of his mind. So really, you went into BU's home ice, and you shut them up, and you had their fans exiting the stadium like really early. So a good way to really show BU who's the dominant dog here, and it's Boston College. Saturday's game. The backstory to this game going into it was even cooler. We'll get into this more in a second, but the fans all lined up early. And it was the barn again. It was turning Conti Forum into a freaking circus, and in a good way. Like, it was loud. It was, just crazy atmosphere in there. And, the game starts with BU getting called. I believe it was too many men on the ice just to start the game. Like, immediately they're on the power. Like, immediately, like within the start, like before the whistle even blew. Jay Pandolfo, the BU head coach, was apoplectic. BC scores a goal immediately on that power play. I think it was like 15 or 13 seconds into the game. They go up. I was Stiga, I think, that scored that first goal. They're up 1-0. And then it was the Jacob Fowler show. Jacob Fowler completed his sixth shutout of the season. And if he doesn't win the Mark Richter award for best goalie in the country, I don't know who deserves it more. He has 6 shutouts, had 30 saves in this game. He had some really crazy saves too. Like, if you watch some of the replays, there was at least one power play BC was on where he was standing on his head through some of those things. He was the MVP of this game. Bar none, it was Jacob Fowler. Crazy saves. And then Ryan Leonard again with the empty netter to seal it and sends BC fans home ecstatic. Now, going into this week, BU was number 1 in the Hockey East. Not anymore. With the 6 points, BC jumps them in the standings. BC is now the number 1 team in Hockey East. They're the number 1 team in the country. And we have the Beanpot coming up soon too. That is a week from Monday. But before that, on Friday, BC hosts UMass Lowell. And Lowell's, again, a very good team. I believe they're in the top 15. That'll be in Lowell always plays great. So we'll get to see, and it's usually a clash of differing styles too, because Lowell always has a team packed with older guys, while BC has the blue chips. So that should be a fun matchup too. Now, in a moment, BC basketball has been a complete disaster. They're 1 in whatever in conference, and there's going to be nobody other than opposing fans at these games for the next month and a half. I predict, but it doesn't have to be that way. I'll explain why. Maybe if BC actually bucks the trend, they could actually fill that place. I'll explain what they need to do in just a moment. Super Bowl 59 is here. One game, two teams, endless possibilities. And there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, or even betting on the coin toss, FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action. With live betting all game long, you can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. The live betting feature lets you stay involved no matter what happens on the field, and the app is super easy to navigate. I just hit a 6-way parlay in the NFC Championship game with yards passed, and I had an everyday any game touchdown to Saquon Barkley, and you just add them up. It was real easy, and I felt pretty good after that one. Plus, knowing that you can place a $5 bet and win $200 in bonus bets for the Super Bowl, that's icing on the cake. Download the app or head over to FanDuel.com to get started. Bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 59. Locked on Boston College, AJ Black here, wrapping things up. I want to shout out my Eagles nesters. I have a special video coming out for you guys soon, and I've been appreciating all the comments that you guys have been sending to me, and I'll make sure I send some more to you soon too as well. Now, if you want to sign up to be an Eagles nester, it's part of our texting program. You could text direct me to me, get videos from me. Also, it's a good Boston College stuff. I hope you check that out. Link is in the profile. So I want to talk about the state of basketball. And I see a lot of talk, and I get it, that the basketball program is cooked. No one cares anymore. And the stadium it's Conti Morgue. I see all that. I get it. But I think that if the school decided that they wanted to, and I know, I'm talking about Boston College, and this is going to be, you guys are going to say, AJ, you're really naive here. But what if the school decided to have a similar approach to hiring and supporting the program like they do with hockey and they do with football, which they are now, as I said last week, they added new staff, they're paying more, they hired a marquee coach with Bill O'Brien. If Earl Grant is not the answer, and more, I'm not going to do an episode where I'm talking about firing Earl Grant yet. But if they do decide to move on from him, the school has to spend the money to get a marquee coach here. And I'm not talking like Jay Wright. I'm not talking about, someone was texting me that on my message boards that Bruce Pearl. I'm like, okay, let's be realistic here. But there's young up and coming coaches that you can bring in that could change the face of this program. Look at what Louisville just did. Louisville just brought in a head coach, Pat Kelsey from I forget what mid-major school that was, but they brought him in, and they're a top 25 school immediately. And I know Louisville is a sleeping blue blood, but you just need to bring in the right coach, to bring in the right transfers and a few recruits, and you can flip the switch here at BC quick. Football and basketball are very different beasts. Football is a roster of 105 plus, and to flip it sometimes it takes a while. Basketball, look what Louisville just did. They had I think their entire roster entered the transfer portal. They flipped it, and now they're a top 25 team. If this isn't the right roster, if there's guys that aren't working here, you can flip this quick. with the right coach and bring in the right guys. All it takes is winning, and you have a fan base that is jonesing for a product to root for. Look at hockey. I know hockey is a blue blood, but I'm going to tell you, as a older, I know I'm going to age myself here. I was there during the Jared Dudley years, Craig Smith, and Conti Forum was crazy back then. It can be that way if you win. BC fans are fickle, but they want to win. They want a product they can root for. If you're just going to go out there and go 1-9 or whatever it is in ACC play, they're not going to care. They're going to go do something else. You only have 4 years there. They'll find something else to go do. But if you win, you're going to get the same support that hockey gets, that women's lacrosse is getting, that football is very much getting from the students, and you'll get the older fan bases back. That's the big key right there. Is it, for football is the older fan base, and for basketball, it's the students. I have to say for basketball, you got to start with the students, because the student interest in the program is dead, and it's not their fault. It's because we've now gone since the Al Skinner days with barely a pulse in this program. We're now looking back at last year where we were talking about how exciting it is that they made the second round of the NIT in progress, and you're watching not Brevin Calloway, Devin McLaughlin winning, helping his Vanderbilt team with 2 court storming wins in a week, with Jaden Zachary down in Clemson being an all ACC level defender, and all these other guys that are leaving also playing better, and you're going, what did Earl Grant waste? What you got Quentin Post, who's he had 20 points in the NBA last week. What did Earl Grant waste? That should have been a tournament team. There was enough talent there to be a tournament team. So you bring in the right coach, and you have to pay. BC has to understand you can't cheap out on a hire. Spend the money, make it happen. If you spend the money, you will make the money, because it's out there. You can pack Conti for him. You can bring interest back. To make money, you got to spend money. So if BC wants this program to get back afloat, and I truly believe Blake James does. I think that we have the right guy in charge right now for the situation that's going on with that basketball team. He is a guy that's not just going to sit there and watch this program flail for 2 more years before he pulls a trigger. If he thinks he can get the right coach in, if he thinks there's the right opportunity to pull that trigger, he's going to do it. And he will convince the board to do it. I believe he can. So that's my big thing here is, you got to bring in, if you're going to do a new coaching hire, you got to spend. You got to spend. You can't cheap out. You can't bring in, and it's been 2 hires in a row now. Steve Donahue, I think people were excited because he had he's a Sweet 16, I think, the year he came in. But Jim Christian and Earl Grant, both of them, the hires, you were like, who are these guys? And you had, the talking heads that are, parroting the party line, going, oh yeah, they're great. Yep, they're great. And we're seeing now that they're not. So BC needs to do something. They're going to do something if they're going to do it. And if they do that, you can get Conti Forum back to the way it was, but you got to win. But for basketball, it all starts with your coach. And I'm not going to let you use NIL as an excuse, because I believe that the Friends of the Heights are doing the right thing, and that they're able to, they have enough money to put together packages to make this program competitive. Are they going to be Kentucky? No. Are they going to be Duke? No. But they're going to get money so that they can put together a program that makes BC competitive. Now you guys all want to know, will Earl Grant make it? That's not my call for this episode. I'm sure we'll talk about it as the season goes on. Thank you all for listening. We'll be back again tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Boston College. Follow me on Twitter at AJBlack247. Come over to Eagle Insider. We have player profiles. We've had women's basketball recaps, men's basketball, hockey. I've got recruiting stuff. We'll have the whole schedule. And for Monday's show, hopefully I'll tell you right now, my goal for the Tuesday show is to recap the schedule, talk about what my thoughts are on that. But I'm gonna tell you right now, if that schedule comes out at 11 o'clock at night, it's gonna be for the Wednesday show. Just my work schedule. I can't be up that at that ungodly hours recording about BC scheduling. Hopefully it will be. My fingers are crossed. Well, thank you all. I'll see you all again tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Boston College. Your team every day.